Hello. We are four individuals who are involved with presenting the Renaissance Choir's 50th anniversary commission in 2026. So I'm Simon O'Hea. I'm currently the chair, and Peter Gambie, our music director, and Maggie Sawkins, esteemed poet, and Ian Schofield, esteemed composer. So we're going to talk a little bit about songs of hope, and I'd like to perhaps to pass over to Peter to maybe set the theme.
Thank you. The Renaissance Choir celebrates its 50th birthday next year. It seemed natural that we should do something which was long lasting to celebrate this, so we made the decision to commission some new music. At the time, the Black Lives Matter and the Me Too movements were very much in the public mind, reminding us that in our society there are many people that don't actually have much of a voice. I've worked with the composer Ian Schofield before when commissioning a work of protest called Freedom, which is about the abolition of slavery. It seemed logical to develop this vein further. We were delighted to find a kindred spirit in the poet Maggie Sawkins, who had already written many poems involving oppression. The arts can highlight issues such as prejudice very effectively, so I felt we should provide a voice for those less fortunate in terms of power, gender, race, or oppression. In the 16th century, the English composer William Byrd protested against the Reformation. He was a staunch Roman Catholic, even though Henry VIII had banned Roman Catholicism. He was at risk of being burnt at the stake or beheaded, but he continued to protest. Since then, many brave composers and poets have dared to highlight the plight of the oppressed. This is another example in that noble line. So we met in a South Sea cafe on a bright summer day and set to work.
So Maggie's going to talk about what inspired her within this whole creative process.
Yeah, as Peter said, the brief was for me to write a long poem which would be sympathetic to the ethos of art as a force for change, expressing support for the less fortunate in terms of power, gender, race, and religion. But he did stress that of equal importance was that the piece should convey a sense of hope. A few years ago, I'd worked on a poetry project with the refugee and asylum seeker community in Portsmouth. And so the theme of global displacement and the effect it has on the most vulnerable in society was foremost in my mind at the time. Every day, all over the world, we bear witness to people making one of the most difficult decisions in their lives to leave their homes in search of a safer life. Their journeys, which start with the hope of a better future, can also be full of danger and fear. So I wanted my piece to address that fine balance that exists between hope and despair. The finished piece, entitled Our Song is Hope, is told from different perspectives. There's the omniscient narrator, the voices of the displaced, and the voice of the rescuer, the you and the me. There's a number of allusions in the piece. Emily Dickinson's poem, which begins, "Hope is a thing with feathers." William Blake's Auguries of Innocence, "To see the world in a grain of sand," and this bit from the biblical parable of the sheep and goat. "For I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and I welcomed you." So in this time of hostile rhetoric directed at some of the most vulnerable people on the planet, the prime sentiment of my composition is the hope that by opening a metaphorical and literal door to the displaced among us, the scales will tilt in the favour of hope. And I'll just finish with a couple of lines that begin and end the piece. Hope is like a fire, it catches in the heart. The world is its choir, our song is where it starts. Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie. That was so inspirational and so relevant to the times we live in. So, Ian, could I turn to you and perhaps ask you to talk about your contribution to this
Yes.
work, please?
Okay. Well, as Peter just mentioned, we have worked together before in compositional work, twice for the Renaissance Choir and once for Southampton Choral Society. The last piece that I did for the Renaissance Choir was for their 40th anniversary, and that was a setting of texts by Tagore. As you've just heard, this has got newly composed poetry by a living writer, and it's particularly inspiring to actually write with somebody who you can actually communicate with and say, could you change this bit? Could have a little bit more here, that kind of thing. Although there was, I don't think I actually asked for anything to be changed at all. The text that I got was very inspiring. I found it very easy to set, and it kind of flowed out so easily for me to write the music to this particular piece, to this text. In this particular piece, of course, I was working with a poet that is alive, so that if I needed anything changing, although there was very little that I needed to change, I could ask, and it happened remarkably quickly. Maggie was remarkably quick at coming up with additional text or making subtle alterations here and there. And I found this composition particularly easy to write, much easier to write than setting the text of Tagore when I did the 40th anniversary composition.
Can I intrude?
Yeah, go on.
Can I say that I've always found Ian's melody writing to be really inspirational, because he manages to get the combination of being jaunty and approachable, but also to keep singers interested in learning music, which isn't necessarily straightforward. And the fact that he changes the time signature every other bar is not just a challenge for the conductor, but it makes the music really bounce along and become incredibly enjoyable to listen to and to sing.
I suppose the one thing I could say particularly is that at one point I've had a little bit of the text translated into Latin, and I thought it would be good to write at least one movement that sort of reflected the musical heritage of the Renaissance Choir. So one of the movements is stylistically, in some respects, different from the rest of it, being sort of harking back to the Renaissance style of composition, although it does things that no Renaissance composer would have done.
Yeah, so yes, I found Ian was really helpful in suggesting, I guess, a different tone in the centre of the piece, which I hadn't thought about. So that was really hopeful and helpful. Yeah, so really a part of the text is comes from Ian, really, his inspiration. So I was thankful for that. And I think we worked well together on that.
Oh, well, yeah, I absolutely agree. We did. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. And I've never worked with a composer before, so that was really something new for me. I learned a lot from the experience. So I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, in terms of working with a poet, I've worked with people who've prepared texts for me before, but not sort of not a poetical work. I know that when I did Freedom for Southampton Choral Society, um, a very good friend compiled a text based on court cases to do with slavery, and most of the text was literally an exact transcript of what was said in court. So you wouldn't describe it as poetic, but a different sort of text inspires different sort of music. You just have to find the way into it. That's what was particularly difficult about the Tagore was that there's so little repetition um, between one verse and another, and no obvious repetition within a verse either. And it was very hard to to give it a musical structure or any form of musical repetition that people would be able to latch onto. I did kind of find a way into it after some considerable struggle. It was a struggle I never got with your pieces, with your texts at all. And there was repetition within each verse, each section, I should say, certainly structurally, and there was repetition throughout the piece as well, which holds it all together very nicely. And also, there's quite a lot of contrast in it, which, with a subject that we were dealing with, it'd be so easy to, how should I say, just to write music that is all the same all the way through. But it was varied, despite the fact that there was a unifying theme. It was approached from different angles, and it allowed me to vary the music quite a lot.
Um, Perhaps we could put a line under that and just maybe just say that we're all really looking forward to, well, we choir members are very much looking forward to being conducted by Peter
Yes.
to perform the premiere of this work on Saturday, the 28th of March at St. Peter's in Petersfield, followed by two performances in July on the 11th of July, Church of the Holy Spirit in Southsea, followed by the 18th of July at Boxgrove Priory Church.
Okay. Oh, that's right.
And we really look forward to all of that.